Hello and welcome to the Hardy Brain, the show that takes athletic, introverted entrepreneurs and leaders and transforms them into ironclad brain performers. I'm your host, Dr. David Hardy, and today on our show, we've got an amazing guest today. She is a neurotech strategist, founder and CEO of MindPilot, and is on a mission to transform human performance. Welcome to the show, Hannah Conkey. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be on your show today.
Oh, this is exciting. I really love talking to people kind of in the neurotech side because it kind of shows me trends that are occurring, taking place, and that larger business aspect of things. And then, well, of course, there's validation in what I do as well in functional neurology. What are kind of your motives or things that get you jazzed when you hear neurotechnology and improving business performance, all these things you're involved in?
Uh, so many years ago, I think particularly in the neurotech space, I think a lot of this is not new. I think a lot of companies are focusing on rapid growth and acceleration in this space. It's a really interesting and evolving space to be in. Many years ago, I think it was much more focused in the medical space. And I think what is exciting and what I love is the opportunity now to integrate it into everyday performance and wellbeing practices. So it's a lot more accessible for individuals, for organizations, for people that are generally looking to understand their brain better, understand their performance, understand their health, and then use that data to really improve the way that they think, feel, and perform, both personally and professionally. So that's really the space that I'm excited about, and being able to look at how people learn, how people respond in different environments, and how they respond doing different types of tasks and activities. And I think that's pretty cool because it means that we can design environments, we can design learning, we can design, all sorts of different activities with the brain in mind, and not just in general, but looking at people's individual brains and the way that they work and function, and come up with strategies that will optimize their own personal health, performance, and well-being.
I love it. And people think these are separate topics. And I keep going back to articles I've read, World Economic Forum, G7, and the kind of think tanks. And they're combining numbers, and they've come up with just mind-blowing numbers that right now brain disorders, so when the brain's not working properly or as efficient as it should, is right now a $5 trillion global burden. And that number is expected to climb to 16 trillion by the end of the decade.
Wow, that's pretty significant.
And then on the other side, there's brain capital, which is, this performance aspect of things. And I read numbers that I'm thinking it was 122 million productive years are on the table for humanity.
Wow, that's incredible.
And so this isn't just a fringe thing. I think actually governments and countries are behind on integrating this, and the businesses that are taking a lead right now on anything that's going to improve how the brain nervous system functions better really need to be applauded, because most situations it's a climate, an atmosphere, an environment that makes people function worse.
Yeah.
Can you kind of speak to kind of that old school burnout, kill yourself for a job type mentality that's out there, and where your company's looking to take things then?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've worked in learning, organizational design, development, and transformation for the last 20 odd years. And that's part of the reason I got into this, because we'd see where, we're designing business strategies and not necessarily thinking about how the brain naturally works and how people respond to different environments, how they respond to different tasks and interactions and different types of work throughout different times of the day. So thinking about circadian rhythm, and then how well people are able to focus for certain amounts of time, and then looking at, this old school mentality around, if people are at the desk and they're working and they're there for 8 or 9 or 10 hours, that they must be productive. And so one of the things that's great that we've obviously been enjoying doing is looking at, well, how do people's brains respond after a certain amount of time? How do people respond to natural light? How do they respond to being in different types of rooms, different environments, doing different types of work? And then also things like, the food that they're eating. So when they eat, how they're eating, all of that has a really key impact on the brain function, energy levels, and our ability to focus, to perform, to stay engaged. And I think that's a really key opportunity for individuals to understand, but also for businesses. And so when we're looking at it from a productivity and performance lens, being able to help organizations, particularly in the corporate space as well, to understand, well, if we can design our people strategy, our business strategy, our office or workspaces to optimize brain function, we'll get better outcomes from people. And that has a direct impact on psychosocial safety, on trust, collaboration, on output, on people wanting to come into the office, people working together, people recognizing neurodiversity and designing people and business strategies and work environments for inclusion, to give people choice around how they work and the type of work that they're doing and what gets done when, based on people's individual needs and preferences, and obviously meeting the business needs as well. But I think that's such a
Right.
key opportunity, even in schools, how students learn the right environment. There's some schools in Australia that started doing their final year 12 uh, exams after school. So
Right.
what impact does that have on memory
Yeah.
recall, on learning, on stress, on all of these different factors, and that has an impact on the individual and then the school and the results. So again, being able to measure some of these things and influence the strategies and learning approaches and testing approaches, I think is really valuable.
Now, you mentioned so many amazing things in there, and I completely agree with all of it. Uh, Kind of a confusing area for me, though, is the difference between individuality, because we know every brain's different. Everybody has different preferences. Different ages have different circadian rhythms and ways they function. So there's a ton of data there and a lot of different patterns. And you're also mentioning like very rigid systems and structures like corporate life, and well, education hasn't been revamped since the industrial age, since the first schools. Like the systems have stayed the
Mm.
same. So like what are some of these patterns you've noticed and applications that could possibly be used in these archaic ways we continue to just do the regular thing that probably doesn't serve humanity like it used to.
Yeah. One of the things, and I'm sure you've seen this and heard this a lot in the work that you do as well, and probably with friends and people that you encounter in all sorts of different settings, there's a lot more focus around neurodiversity and people feeling or being diagnosed with ADHD, or all sorts of different ends of the spectrum. And so I think one of the key opportunities for us is working with schools or working with organisations, and even in a sporting capacity, where we're helping create some awareness and interest and curiosity to look at what's the baseline data that we can get. So, what do we currently understand? How do people currently respond to this environment? How do they respond to these types of learning experiences? if we make these changes, what impact does that have? And so being able to see this as a really, really positive opportunity for growth and to change and really influence the strategies that we come up with. From, we talk about learning, and obviously I've worked in learning for a very long time. And so this idea that we can have people in a classroom or online and talk to them for 8 hours a day, and that they're going to absorb all of
Right.
that, and all of a sudden change their mindset and their behavior and have an immediate capability uplift is really unrealistic. And so even just in that setting, one, recognizing that people learn differently and people's brains are differently, but then if we can help the individuals understand, what do I need to be successful? What's my sort of baseline? And then what are the things that I need that are going to help me? And being able to track some of that data and those trends over time to then be able to use that information to say, okay, well, in this context, we can apply these scenarios and then look at what in general works for everybody. But I think over time we will get to a lot more individualized approach. And we do some work with a company as well. We partner to do like DNA and epigenetic testing and the biomarkers. So again, helping people understand their brain, helping them understand their body and different factors that can play a part, and then design lifestyle and, professional and other strategies that take all of that into consideration. And so I think this opportunity to have a lot more of a personalized approach is accelerating, and then obviously being able to measure that through wearables and other things as well. And then for businesses, being able to roll up some of that data and those insights to help them inform the way they design their structures, their office space, their work, their learning programs, their culture, engagement.
Fantastic. Now, I'm going to throw out some terms here that I've seen in your company's website
Mm-hmm.
here. And a few of them are really easy that anyone on this call will probably have a definition of. And then after we name these off, I'll get you to put the holistic, tying these all together theme. So the first one, just a quick, brief definition: neuroscience.
Neuroscience. So understanding the brain, essentially, when I look at that, it's
Nice.
looking
Yeah.
at the brain and the body and understanding how it works, how we function, and being able to use that
Perfect.
information to optimize. Yeah.
All right. Neurotech.
Neurotech. So there's lots of different devices that help us understand the way the brain and body works. So whether it's EEG, so brain, doing brain scans, or TMS, so um, magnetic stimulation. So there's a range of different types of technology that we can use to understand and read the brain function.
I love it. And since you said EEG and other markers, biomarkers.
So when we look at, obviously there's a range of different factors around the brain and the body. So when we look at people's bloods, we can look at things like, the DNA, epigenetics, different risk factors for health and longevity, and being able to take all of that information. That it's not always like it's a good source of data. So we look at those different factors to inform the way that we support individuals, and also help them understand their brain and their body better, which will have a direct impact on their health and performance and well-being.
I love it. Now, here's a hard one. I'm not sure many people know about this one: quantum biology.
Mm. So we have an amazing person that works in our team. So understanding the way the body works. And then there's a lot of different factors around the body, the environment, the brain, and looking at it holistically. I think sometimes people think about the brain and body being separate. So when we look at how everything that we experience through our sensory system has a direct impact on our brain and our body and our functioning. So whether it's the food that we eat, the environments that we live and work in, whether it's, things that we hear, what we can see. So understanding how all of those different factors fit together and then how that impacts our body. And I guess looking at it from a two-way lens. So information coming in and then information going back out.
I love it. And that information is like down to the electron and proton on that one, isn't it? Like fascinating.
Yeah, and we're seeing.
All right, last. Oh, sorry.
No, I
Yeah.
was gonna say, I think, seeing one of the things I do really love is seeing a lot of the videos that are coming out. I think because of the technology now as well, and obviously AI, is we can see how lots of different things fit together. And I think being able to see at that kind of cellular level how the body works and how the brain works is really fascinating. So I'm loving seeing some of those really cool videos come out.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the last one here, neuroarchitecture.
So neuroarchitecture is around understanding the brain and how the brain responds to different environments, and then designing those environments with the brain in mind. So we have an architect that works in our team. And so one of the things that he does is when he's working with a company, so whether it's a school or an office space or a house, he will look at how the brain works and then what the company's strategy is, what the values are, and obviously a range of different factors, the type of feelings that we're trying to create in an environment or in a built environment, and then come up with a strategy and design plan to build a place that helps optimize your brain function, the way that people think, feel, and perform in a place. So you notice that sometimes you walk into a place and it has a particular feel. Some environments are more conducive for different types of activities than others. So essentially, it's architecture, but designing places with the brain in mind.
Yeah, like our surroundings make us feel different. And yeah, what a key concept that has sort of been there, but people have kind of ignored the architecture of the nervous system and brain.
Yes.
So holistically, obviously these are complex fields and we're dealing with a complex system, but I always throw out the question to audiences when I talk. I'm like, well, we know what organ the heart is. It's a pump.
Mm-hmm.
We know the liver is a filter. Okay, what organ is the brain?
So it's a good question. So when you think about, are you asking me that question? Like, what organ is it?
Absolutely, and just stimulating the neurons in the people listening as well.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that for some reason. I'm like, I don't know. What
Oh,
would you
okay.
say?
Yeah, and the simplistic term of the brain and nervous system is it's a sensory organ.
Mm.
It takes in information from the outside world and from our own body, and then it processes that information, and then we have an output.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at, the neurotech and the biomarkers and the neuroarchitecture and all of this, we're looking at that simple three-step process: information in, processing, output. And yeah, I'm starting to see it more and more in the neurotech world.
Mm.
Okay, well, we put this stimulation into the system and we expect this result. And I've seen it like with, vagal nerve devices. And then two, we talk about neuroarchitecture. Well, that's through our senses as well.
Mm.
We look at movement. It's all through our senses, and that changes how we process. And yeah, in that processing, we have emotions, feelings, and thoughts. And there is kind of this hierarchy. And yeah, at the top is cognition and everything that people think of, like performance, academia. But it's built on all these physical aspects that we kind of ignore. And I love that holistic approach that you're looking at all of these and combining it into the systems you're running and working with. Can you kind of just Tell us maybe a couple stories of how you've seen your company and what you're working on really come to life and make a change to that work environment or to the individual person who's in it.
When So since setting up this business, as I said to you, I worked in learning, organizational design, transformation, leadership development for a long time. And one of the things I've loved just since setting up this business is working with individuals and then having conversations with them and then saying, well, this is really great. Could you do this with my child? Or could you do this with my business? And what we're seeing is people want to know and understand themselves. And I'm sure you come across this a lot. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of distraction. You know, people are so busy getting through the day, getting through their lives that they don't necessarily have time to stop and slow down. And even if they want to understand and make improvements to themselves personally, professionally, their family, their friends, their health and well-being, often they don't know how. And I don't know that we
Right.
necessarily learn this at school. We learn, kind of key concepts and, maths and English and the basics, but we don't necessarily
Yeah.
learn a lot
Yeah.
of this unless you study psychology and still you're probably getting the basics. And so one of the things that I've found really impactful is people have such a broad range of different reasons why they want to come and work with us. So it might be women, it might be
Hmm.
CEOs, it might be sports people, it might be a business wanting to work on their leadership, their culture, their people strategy. It might be a founder who's been backed through, venture capital investing, and they want to be successful. People in general want to be successful, and they want to think their best. They want to feel their best. And so when and sit down and talk with people and help them see that we can help them understand their brain and how their brain works and who they are, not just through personality assessments or, different types of psychometric assessments, but we can actually help them understand how their brain works and then help them get a much better understanding of, their biomarkers and their overall health and well-being and some of the genetic factors that might play a part in that.
Right.
And even
Yeah.
though they're not stuck to that, but it's still a good level of insight that they can take that into consideration and make some changes. And then understanding the role of food and nutrition and nourishment and then also the environment that people operate in and some really simple strategies for people to make lifestyle changes that will help them think better and feel better overall. And so what we see then is people with a much greater focus, ability to focus, increase energy levels, quality of sleep goes up, health overall is improved. People, when it comes to corporate, that people are coming into the office, there's a reduction in sick leaves, there's an increase in engagement. And when we can use some of these strategies to help people understand themselves and have really practical ways to improve, then what we're seeing is people have a much greater level of confidence, self confidence, um, that they're feeling a lot more in control. So often we see that people, by the time we work with some people, they feel helpless, they're frustrated, they've had lots of different appointments with different people, and they're not necessarily getting a holistic, integrated approach. So they might be dealing with one thing over here and then something else over there. So when we help them look at all of these different factors and come up with a strategy that looks at what's your environment, what are you doing, we talk about the sensory system. What music do you listen to? What sounds are you taking in? What conversations are you engaging in that are impacting you in a positive or negative way? What are you seeing visually? How much clutter do you have in your environment? How have you designed your space? How much greenery or natural light do you have access to? When are you eating? Are you getting time outside? Like there's all these little things I think that all add up. But when we can help people look at it overall, it makes a really big difference. And, having a really simple plan that they can work through and follow. And for us, if we can, measure help measure and understand their brain and body and their environment, if we can then look at how to predict some of the key things that might be impacting and challenging for them, and then look at key strategies to optimize themselves and their environment, their business, their health and well-being, and then, again, kind of repeat that process. It means that people have that opportunity to, get onto a really good playing field and then just keep improving and improving. And yeah, we're seeing some really positive results, both for individuals and for businesses as well.
Amazing. And has there been any pushback though? So I can kind of see, like in some businesses, and especially that the culture of, yeah, I'll have my pot of coffee to wake up and my bottle of wine to put me to sleep, which isn't healthy, which isn't sustainable. But during that moment in time, it it feels good, or it feels like the option people often want to take. And then, yeah, now we're saying, oh, my job wants to see my biomarkers, and they want to make sure I'm getting healthier and both more cognitively fit, emotionally fit, and physically fit. No. Well, what has sort of been maybe pushback out there? Like I can see it working really well with children, because who doesn't want their children to have a better performing life, and feel better? But what about in some of these? No, this is the stress situation going on right now, and I'm not wanting my company to have all this stuff.
So we have a couple of different things at play here, and one of them is, I think, individuals in general, not a problem, because most individuals want to understand themselves.
Right.
Sometimes there is some people like, I don't know, I don't want to know, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing and hope for the best. But
Right. Yeah.
it's a small percentage of people that I find that's the case with. And so when we look at, organizations or the piece that you're talking about, our focus is always making sure that the individuals own their data. So it's always opt-in, it's always, the individual's consent. And there are a lot of discussions around neuroethics and what does this mean in terms of organizations having access to people's data, their brain data. I'm sure you hear a lot of the conversations around, will people be able to read my thoughts? And as we continue to progress with a lot of these things. So that's a real thing. And so our focus is on making sure that individuals opt in, that they own the data, that it's for them. Where the pushback comes in is, so if you were to do like an employee engagement survey or something like that, the idea is that it's anonymous. So usually you have a third party facilitate that process. The data is collected by a third party, and then the individuals obviously know what their responses are, and then the third party will provide insights, high-level insights back to the organisation to help make improvements and think about ways that they can use that information to better their employee engagement, their people, business strategies, etc. And so where some of the pushback comes in holistically is a little bit around how will my data be used, who will have access to it, what does that mean in terms of, either discrimination or unfair advantage or disadvantage. And then also, so that's sort of one part of it, particularly around the privacy, the ethics piece. And then the other is, because in many ways this is still a relatively new mainstream approach, I think early adopters have an advantage and they see the benefit. Where we're looking at some of the bigger companies or looking at it more broadly, I think there's still a perception that it's very much a medical approach. So it's used for, brain health or for, physical health, We don't play in the medical space. We're very much around, health, performance, wellbeing optimization. And so where people take that lens and approach, it works really well. I think there's still, I think the people that are, as I said before, I think the people that are early adopters of it see the benefit, and I think that will give them an advantage. I think there's some other businesses that still are a little bit like, well, we'll wait until everyone else is using it or doing that until we start doing it. Where in Australia, there's a big focus around psychosocial safety. And so that's been a positive thing for us as well, where we can, again, look at how do people respond to, different environments, to different interactions? How do we design for that? And so the big thing that I think is important when it comes to overcoming some of the challenges and pushback is having some of the case studies and supporting data to be able to show people this is the baseline, this is where we started, these are the challenges that we're all trying to solve for, here's how we've been able to do that, these are the benefits for the individuals and for the organization. So again, regardless of whether it's a school or sporting or corporate, and then these are the opportunities that come from that. I think that's where there's a lot of value to be had. But again, still recognizing that individuals need to own their own data and really opt into it for it to be of value for them and for the business. There's different ways of looking at doing it for a business or for a school, but having support and buy-in obviously makes it important. So I think where people are using this in a really practical way and we're able to track and map that and see, the before and after and the value and the impacts of it, I think is where the value is.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, this arena, it's predominantly started at the top. It's been C-level people looking for these performance hacks or lifestyle changes to make it worthwhile and to get that competitive edge.
Yeah.
And it really is up to the individual if they want to, once again, get that higher position job, arena, or lifestyle, is to take care of themselves.
Absolutely.
And I do like how it's something that could give feedback to a person in real time versus an appointment here, an appointment there, a lab test here, or whatever else, right? But there is still that aspect of people want a treatment versus prevention and lifestyle change. But this really does give the people who want that the option and the environments and the the job positions that need it. There's certain standards in certain industries. Like, let's take airline pilots. They have to pass a physical and do this and that, and most exceed or go above it.
Yeah.
And it is a blending of health and performance and where you want to be in your career. And I think that's amazing aspect. And on top of that, neuroarchitecture came up, and it's like, well, just getting people a better environment to feel better about where they're at.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even require monitoring or anything. It's like, let's not put them in cubicles under fluorescent lights and fry them.
Yeah. A really simple and cheap fix, just change the lights and a little bit of greenery and a few different things make a really big difference.
Absolutely. So I applaud the work you're doing, and the level of detail you're hitting is once again, mind-blowing. So how do people find out more information about you and what you're doing, and how do they reach out to you?
I'm very happy to connect on LinkedIn or on our website, so on the MindPilot website, Instagram. Not super active on Instagram, but certainly LinkedIn or through our website.
I love it. So definitely check out MindPilot. And, well, of course, stay tuned to the next episode of The Hardy Brain, the show that takes athletic, introverted entrepreneurs and leaders and transforms them into ironclad brain performers. Take care.
Thank you.